Red FM ਸੁਣ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਾਡੇ BC ਦੇ ਪ੍ਰੀਮੀਅਰ ਆਨਰੇਬਲ ਡੇਵਿਡ ਈਬੀ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਸਾਡੇ ਸਟੂਡੀਓਜ਼ ਵਿੱਚ ਪਹੁੰਚ ਚੁੱਕੇ ਹਨ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਅਗਲੀ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਹੋਵੇਗੀ Premier, thank you very much for coming down. Welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Thin. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you again, personally. So how was your meeting with the premiers and the Prime Minister? How did it go?
It was good. It was very constructive. BC entered into trade agreements with the Yukon and Manitoba and Ontario, so we had individual good interactions with other provinces, but also as a team. The premiers, the Prime Minister, all of us working together to advance Canada's economy. It feels like things are working well right now, which is really positive for our country.
So anything particularly for BC?
Yeah, absolutely. We brought to the table concern about repeat violent offenders and bail reform, around changes around immigration that are needed and support for provinces in relation to that, as well as, of course, economic development and the huge opportunities that are in BC. We're going to be the economic engine of the new economy the federal government's building with our ports that face the world, the resources we have, and I feel as though the federal government is starting to get that message.
Since our confederation, I think it's the first time that, all the premiers were on the same wavelength and very good relationship, very good atmosphere
true, yeah.
with the Prime Minister. I mean, even the Conservative Premier of Ontario, he was all chums with the Prime Minister. And I heard you laughing with them. I mean, it was a good ambience, good atmosphere there.
Yeah, there's nothing like an external threat to really unify the country. And right now, the president is being extremely threatening to Canada for reasons that no one really understands. We've been such good partners for so many years. But what everybody does understand around that leadership table is that we're all going to have to work together to be successful as a country. And so we're trying our best to set our historic differences aside and find a path forward.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure that Premier Daniel Smith must have asked you about the pipeline. Is a pipeline... you don't agree with it, I understand. Don't you think it'll be a hindrance in the development of BC?
I guess the hard part that I have, Mr. Thin, is that the Premier of Alberta has had this idea of a project that she would like. There's no company building it. There's no money for it. It requires the change of significant laws that are really going to agitate a number of the First Nations off the coast that are partners on major LNG projects. Mm-hmm. And so my question is, why don't we look at the pipeline that we have? We have this TMX pipeline that the public owns already. You can increase the amount shipped through there by more than 200,000 barrels or 200 million barrels a year through an optimization project. Why, and it would come online in a couple of years. We have huge projects in BC that are real. They're going to come online in the next couple of years. They're going to help with the Trump threat. Why so much time and energy is going into this? And putting at threat major BC energy projects that require the cooperation and support of coastal First Nations is very frustrating to me. So that was the message I delivered. I was glad to hear the Premier of Alberta start to talk about the TMX pipeline opportunity because that's the real one. And that's the one that I think will provide actual benefit for Canadians.
People of BC... they have a lot of respect for you when you were saying that don't buy American stuff, don't go there, and people heard you. And it's really hurting the United States, particularly our neighboring state, Washington. I think you met the Washington State Senator Murray. So how did it go? How are they feeling? What they were talking to you?
Yeah, this is the interesting piece, Mr. Thin, and it's not just me. That call has gone out across the country. Canadians of all stripes saying, let's spend our money at home right now. Let's support Canadian first. Let's support Canadian businesses. Let's travel at home. Let's not support American business. Let's send that message. I mean, we are the Americans' major global customer. We buy a ton of American stuff. About 5 times what Japan does. And so, we need to send that message that Canada needs to be respected. The thing that was interesting was the senator from Washington State, who I was meeting with yesterday, who says, look, I get it. You have limited tools in Canada to get the attention of the president. I wish it weren't the case, but I understand why you're doing it. And we would do the same thing. And so her message was for Americans to focus on President Trump and to bring their message to the president because he really is the guy that's driving all of this. Mm-hmm.
You were saying something of the mutual destruction, and Trump is responsible for this kind of destruction. Any collaborative plans or anything that you and the Washington state can do, like BC and Washington?
Yeah, we're going to continue to work together. The hard part is it all depends on the tariff policy out of the president's office and what the president does. When I talk about mutual destruction, a great example is the softwood sector. Here's a sector where, and there's a possibility of a deal on the table where Canadian producers get stability. They get predictable access to the U.S. market without additional duties. American producers get access to defined market share at higher prices. They make more money. Our industry is stable. Americans get access to cheaper building materials. And yet, you hear the president, he wants to put even more duties on, and they can't even produce enough wood that they need in the States, so their prices are going to go through the roof. So that's what I talk about. You're going to do your best to destroy the Canadian industry. We're going to fight that tooth and nail. We're going to diversify our markets. But you're going to make Americans pay more for lumber. And why is that the plan? So it's very easy to say, oh, we don't need their wood, we're going to do it ourselves. The reality is that Americans are going to be paying a huge amount more for timber and cause harm to Canadians for no reason.
Mm-hmm. Now you had free access to the Prime Minister. Our South Asian community is quite fearful of these extortions. Did you talk to them?
Yes.
About this?
Yes, we talked with the Prime Minister about the issue of crime, about the issue of extortion, about the Bishnoi, the call for Bishnoi to be labeled a terrorist organization. Alberta has joined us in that call. We're encouraging Ontario to join us in that call. They're facing similar issues there. The Prime Minister says he's receptive to all of these conversations. They're working on a package for the fall. We hope that includes labeling Bishnoi a terrorist organization to give investigators those additional tools to be able to work across the country as part of the task force. We'll see what happens.
We had this a minor incident. Those miners were taken out safely. That's very good news. But any other plans or instructions from your side or the mining department to increase the safety of the workers?
Yeah, I think like you, I was hugely concerned about Jesse, Darian, and Kevin and their safety in the mine and the safety of all mine workers. We have the best miners in the world. Mm-hmm. We have the most incredible mine rescue teams. You saw that with the efforts that they went to rescue these three men. You saw safety protocols working the way they were supposed to. These guys came out alive and unharmed. They had the supplies they needed. But in terms of the collapse of ground, there needs to be an investigation. We'll do an investigation. The company's doing an investigation. Why did this happen? To make sure we can do everything we can to prevent it from happening again. Mining is going to be a huge economic driver for the province, but the only way that can happen is if it's done safely and responsibly, and that people, when they go to work, they come home safe to their families. And that's a huge priority for us. I'm so glad that was the case for these families, and we need to make it as safe as possible underground for our workers.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure healthcare must be discussed in that meeting, but you're hearing this. A lot of people go back from emergency without getting treatments, and we are short of doctors and everything else. Would you consider a user fee of $5 or so, or then it'll probably will work? A lot of people are suggesting that if a user fee is put in, then the emergency lineup probably will be decreased.
Yeah, there were lots of conversations both directly in the meeting around healthcare, but also on the sidelines. And one of the conversations was about missed appointments. One of the issues that we're seeing here and across the country is people have appointments with specialists of various kinds, and then they don't show up. And so the specialist is just sitting there, these are specialists that have wait lists. And so anybody on the wait list would be glad to go, but they can't because there's an appointment that someone didn't show up for. So one of the ideas that was floated was, well, why don't we track that and find ways of passing out a charge if you don't show up for your appointments, that there's an additional fee to be paid.
But my specialist is I have to pay $75 for missed payment. A lot of people are doing this.
Yeah, that's good. Organizing that for specialists that are at the health authority level to make sure that would be a consistent policy was something that was suggested, which I thought was an interesting idea. We're not currently looking at a user fee model for the emergency room. One of the concerns that we have is that people don't go to get health care and then they need an ambulance as well when they actually hit crisis, and they are reluctant to go. So you got to find that balance between encouraging people to use the system responsibly. Mm-hmm. And the way we've been trying to do that is triage them early, identify who's coming in, how sick are they, can they go off to an urgent primary care center instead of being in the emergency room, and getting more people access to family doctors, which we're making good progress on, especially with the new medical school opening in September 26.
So you're not considering user fee because it'll violate the spirit of the universal health care, or there's other reason?
Well, we don't want people to avoid going to get health care when they need it because they can't afford a user fee. And so that's the balance we have to find, is if you're not well, go to the hospital, get the care you need. But I understand the reasons for proposing a user fee, but we're not currently looking at it.
We briefly talked about the berry producing farmers here, blueberry and other berry farmers.
Yeah.
I was talking to them, and they're still suffering because of the packers and the purchasers. They're not giving them a fair value of their crop. And it's a perishable crop. They cannot store it. So that's a major issue. If they're expecting that the government might enforce some kind of regulatory, means, so, they're at least paid fairly. I mean, they increased 200% price and then sell it to this, other markets. Maybe the government can, get involved somehow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had a look at this since we spoke last time. The agriculture minister has been working with the blueberry sector on this. There's a couple of different proposals that are on the table. There could be a blueberry marketing commission where the packers have to publish the prices that they're paying and people can choose where to go, give some buying or some selling power
That's a good
to
idea.
smaller. I think so too. But we spent a huge amount of time with the apple growers establishing a proposal like this, and then they just voted it down and said they didn't want it. So it's not universally popular, but I think it's a potential. The other challenge we have is we have all of these growers growing the same crop that comes on at the same time. It gives them no market power because the packer can just buy from whoever. It's like, if you don't like my price, then I'm just going to buy from this guy instead. So we have $18 million, which is going to helping buy different varieties that come to market at different times, and support growers in being able to have a little bit more selling power in the market than when everybody's crop comes on at the same time and they're all trying to sell at the same time. And if you don't have the ability to freeze, you don't have the ability to get the crop out and distributed, then you're going to be taking a very low price.
Mm-hmm. So anything else you'd like to say today to our listeners?
Well, Mr. Thin, I don't know if you saw, but at a time when we're trying to build our province, trying to grow our economy, I watched the Conservative transportation critic say that he was going to cancel the Botello Bridge if the Conservatives were elected. This bridge is almost done, and so I think it's important for people to know. And I know that at any point people have frustration about how long projects take to build and these kinds of things. But we're moving projects along faster. We're picking up the pace on things. But the other option that's out there, the Conservatives, is saying that they're going to cancel major projects like the Botello Bridge, which is almost complete, which is completely bizarre. And I just think that's the completely wrong approach for our province.
No, I understand that. Canceling project, even canceling the Massey Tunnel project was bad. People still don't like it. You know that, I guess. But the same token, can the old bridge be kept for cars only or no?
Well, the old bridge is still working hard for British Columbians right now. The ultimate fate of that bridge is I think being dismantled because of the new bridge being available, and it really is coming to the end of its life. If you have a look at that bridge, but we got to keep building and expanding our infrastructure for the province.
Yeah, well, that's very important. And thank you very much for coming down to the studio and talking to us.
Yeah, you bet, Mr. Thin. Great to be here. Good to see you in person.
Talk to you again.
Okay.